PC gaming might seem difficult to get into at first. You might not know what is meant by CPU, GPU, SSD, RAM, or any of the other components. In this video, I'm going to explain what each part is and what it does. This will help you whether you're going to build or buy your first gaming PC. The CPU is the central processing unit. Think about this as the heart or the brain of the PC. It does the majority of calculation and makes all the logical decisions needed to make everything in your PC work. So if you want games to run at their best, you're going to need a good CPU. When choosing a CPU, you need to consider three main things. Firstly, does it have enough cores and threads for what you want to do? Nowadays, you want a CPU with at least 4 cores and 8 threads. But if you want to stream or render videos, you will need more cores and threads. Secondly, does the CPU work with your budget, and does it come with a stock cooler, or will you need to buy an individual cooler separately? Lastly, does the CPU come with integrated graphics, because GPUs are very expensive and hard to get right now, especially new, so you might not be able to get a GPU as you're building your PC and you might have to run integrated graphics for a little bit. Speaking of the GPU is the graphics processing unit. This is responsible for everything you will be seeing on your screen on the PC. This makes it very important for gaming, because if you do not have a GPU that is capable of outputting a certain resolution or FPS, it's going to make your gaming experience worse. Without getting too technical, I wouldn't go below a GTX 1650 Super for your GPU. It's the GPU I personally used, and in the description below I'm going to put a link to the ranking of GPU so you can see where the 1650 Super is in comparison to other GPUs. But be aware, there is currently a GPU shortage, so it might be hard to get one without spending too much money. The motherboard is the component that connects everything in your PC together. Think of it like the central nervous system of your PC. The motherboard you can get depends on the CPU you have in your system, whether it's AMD or Intel. AMD and Intel are just CPU brands if you're not aware, and they have different sockets, so they use different motherboards. For a beginner with an AMD CPU, I would recommend B550 or B450 motherboard, and a beginner with an Intel motherboard, I'd recommend a B560 or B460 motherboard. If you've got this far in the video and you aren't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, it helps me out a lot. RAM is random access memory. RAM acts as temporary storage in your PC. It holds onto things while your PC is turned on, like your Chrome tabs, things you have on in the background, or the state of your PC when you put it to sleep. But because RAM is only temporary storage, it clears everything every time you turn your PC off. And nowadays, I think for most gaming, you need at least 8 GB, but I would recommend a 16 GB set. The SSD is the solid state drive. It's where your operating system and a lot of permanent storage is going to be if you don't want a hard drive in your PC. Solid state drives are much faster than traditional hard drives, and they're also much more compact than traditional hard drives. So if you're going to be buying or building a new gaming PC, you probably want an SSD. The component that provides power to all your other PC parts is the power supply, and that's what makes it so important. If your power supply can't keep up with your GPU or any of the PC parts, it's going to be holding back your performance. And if the power supply isn't providing power safely and consistently, it can actually damage your other parts, so don't cheap out on the power supply. Ideally, you want to get a power supply that is at least 80+ bronze rated. Lastly, the part of your PC that holds everything together, the case. Cases come in 3 main sizes: ITX, MATX, and ATX. Make sure this makes sense with the size of your motherboard and GPU, and you don't want things to not fit or look weird. For example, an ITX motherboard and an ATX case can look very small, so make sure you consider the sizes of things before buying a case. Also, look out for whether the case comes with any case fans, because if it doesn't, the airflow in your PC is going to suffer and it might heat up more than you want it to. Hopefully this gives you a basic understanding of all the major parts in a PC and helps you get into PC gaming. Okay, bye now.